Yeah, so conflict of interest is a kind of discussion that I want to have today. So when we talk about conflict of interest, what are we talking about? I think we should be able to appreciate to say whenever it's a situation whereby you can not be able to make an independent decision, or even sometimes you might feel that you're going to benefit someone or to make someone benefit from the process that you are undertaking. So it might mean that you can make an impartial decision on your own. You are going to either advantage or disadvantage someone in the process. So the other person who is taking part in a process that you are in control might either be disadvantaged or might be advantaged. So that's what we mean when we say there is conflict of interest. So I think what is important for us to appreciate, we all know that in organizations we tend to have relations. Also, sometimes we have relations who are working at the outside the organization, but might have some interest from our organization. So if you're going to help that particular person, is going to also benefit, but also you're going to benefit in one way or another because he's your relation or he's your friend. So you feel like he's going to benefit in the whole process. So that's what we mean when you say you are conflicted in one way or another. So what we need to appreciate that's that. And what is supposed to be done normally is whereby when you feel that there's some kind of conflict with a particular prospective employee, for example, or a supplier, what you need to do is for you to declare such kind of a conflict. And also at the same time, you should also look at to say, can I not be able to make an independent decision? So if you feel like you want to make an independent decision, is when now you need to recuse yourself from the process. Yeah, so what declaring is another thing, but recusing yourself is also another important thing that you need to be able to appreciate to say, because you feel like you cannot be able to make an independent decision, so you can be able to recuse yourself. So I'll give an example. There are certain decisions, for example, in the procurement space. For example, you might be thinking of maybe you are involved in a process like, for example, you're an employee of a company X, and you might have happened that you have got a process like a bid evaluation, for example. So when you're doing the bid evaluation and you are part of the bid evaluation, for example, or maybe development of some TORs, you might develop TORs to tune it to a certain supplier, for example. But maybe at bid evaluation, you are involved, and you know that there is a company X which maybe you feel like you are conflicted. So you should be able to declare such kind of conflict of interest to say, no, I cannot participate in this bid evaluation because I know there is a certain company which in one way or another I cannot be able to make an independent decision or a partial decision. So impartial decision. So well, that's what we need to appreciate. Now stay away from that kind of a process. And also there are moments whereby you might be an internal procurement committee in private companies and NGOs. They call them the internal procurement committees, but maybe in the public sector they are called IBDC, internal procurement and disposal committees. So you might be a member of such kind of a committee, for example, and you might have a supplier, for example, whom you feel could be a trainer, supplier, or any other person. So you might think, say, no, I cannot be able to make an independent decision. So so I will not be able to partake in this particular process, for example, of making a decision or recommending this particular supplier or a list of suppliers, because I know X. Yeah, sometimes also it could be one of the companies that has submitted a bid, for example. It might happen that you are having some interest, in terms of maybe you are a shareholder, and also sometimes it happens to be maybe our relation, our son, our daughter, our wife, who is the shareholder for that particular company. So we know, because what happens is, if you don't declare, if it transpires in future, that whole procurement process can be quashed. So that's also is very, very important. And also, in the Public Procurement Act nowadays, there is a rule, or under the regulations, there's a rule to say you are supposed, as a public or procurement authority, they are supposed to declare to the general public the kind of offer that they want to make to certain suppliers. So once that kind of information is in the public space, you might find that some suppliers would complain to say you are trying to offer this particular company X, for example, but we know the operator of this company is a son of a director, for example, at the organization, or could be the CEO, or could be someone whom we feel was part and parcel of making the decision. Yeah, so such kind of things then to now the process can be stopped, and maybe a new process to start all over again. So that's what is very, very, very important. And also at the same time, we might find that maybe under contract management, you might be having, maybe in the course of the project, for example, maybe they are constructing something, for example, a office complex, for example, and you might be the project manager to certify the work they are doing. But if the company, you are conflicted in another way or other, whereby one of the shareholder is your friend, is your child, or maybe a relation, you might not be able to make, maybe if they have done a good job, but maybe you might still proceed, not to quash them, but maybe you say they have concluded the work. So you might provide the certification, for example, for work completion, yet they have even done a very good job. So in a way, you might feel to say you are compromised. So in the event that you're compromised, is always important. You feel, no, I will not be able to make a fair judgment. You might have to ask someone, for example, from the same organization to supervise such kind of a project. And also sometimes when it comes to sourcing of quotations, for example, you might source quotations from your friends, your relations, and all that. You might find that cannot also help. You might find that you are not doing fine within the space of procurement, for example. So you might find yourself being conflicted in one or another. So it's also important for us to appreciate, to say you should be able to declare such kind of conflict, to say maybe you're conflicted in one or another. And also what is important for us to appreciate, that is not only in the procurement space, but also even in the HR space, for example. You might find yourself also, you're conflicted when it comes to issues of maybe applications. When as a prospective employees have applied for a job, for example, and one of the applicant is your relation, is her daughter, son, and all that, you might find that you are conflicted in one or another. Maybe during shortlisting, you're either positive, as I said, either positive or negative. Even in procurement, you might not recommend someone to be for the organization to procure services, because there is something that is between you and that particular person. So you are in conflicts, or maybe you don't look at each other eye by eye. So in the end, you might find that you are giving a negative recommendation to some. So yeah, so it can be positive or negative situation. And also there are certain times when I was talking about shortlisting, even during interviews, for example, you might find that you are compromised because you are not able to make a fair and independent decision, whether negative or positive. That's what also is very, very important. And also at the same time, decisions like promotion, for example, if someone is to be promoted, for example, you might be conflicted in one or another. Even in the course of the organization, it might either a former boyfriend, a former girlfriend, whom feels to say this person cannot be able to make an independent decision and be able to sue or to complain within the organization. So it's always important for you to sense, to say whether you can be able to make an independent decision, impartial decision, considering all the circumstances that you have with the people that have submitted their bids or they have applied for the job and all that. So that's what is very, very important for us to also appreciate. Even in the disciplinary process, for example, you might find that this is common, whereby maybe a line supervisor, the subordinate will say, no, this one was not supposed to be on the disciplinary hearing because of ABCD, cannot be able to make a good decision over me, or a positive decision, or a fair decision on me because of ABCD, and maybe he has been threatening me to say he will fire me and all that, and the same person also sitting on the disciplinary hearing and I don't think I can be treated fairly. So it's always important for you as an organization to appreciate such kind of funding. What is important also is to appreciate, to say there's need for having the conflict of interest declarations. So each and every employee, when they have joined the organization, they should be able to declare, to say if they feel to be conflicted, they will be able to recuse themselves from that kind of processes. And also the same things it would be issues of transfers, for example, making the transfer decisions, for example, for an employee between departments or even across the country. You might find yourself that you are conflicted. No. So you should be able to look at, to say whether if I am part of the decision making for this transfer, someone might not feel that I'm conflicted or not. It could be issues of house allocation, for example. Yeah, someone feel you have advantage someone, or you have disadvantaged someone because of the past experiences and all that. So all these things should be looked into from a broader perspective, to say how conflicted are you in one or another in the process, for example. So you should be the first one to declare such kind of a process. And also issues of promotion, for example, you should also look at, to say during this promotion process, am I not conflicted, or am I conflicted? So these are some of the things which are also very, very important. Issues of training, for example, you might say no, because you remember you declare to me that I will not be able to go for any training, and now you are part and parcel of the decision making. So all these processes, issues, even processing of staff loans and all that, all these processes, could be issues of conflict of interest. So you should be able to declare such kind of conflict, and also be able not to partake in the processes. Not declaring for the sake of you just don't want to take part in the activities, but there should be evidence that there is conflict of interest. Even other people would know, but we are not seeing the conflict of interest here. And how come we are saying there is conflict of interest? So it's also so important for you to look at that, to say whether you are really conflicted or not. The evidence should be there. So because some people just use it as a tool to run away from activities of the organization. So I hope you have enjoyed this session. I will look forward for more sessions. Thank you so much.